Welcome to the Recon Network Vet Summit 2020. This session is for the awesome military spouses. It's your turn for career success. We hope that you'll enjoy this conference. Please get a lot out of it. It is truly an amazing event, and we hope you learn a lot today in this session and all the others that you attend. So I am Robyn Grable. I'm the founder and CEO of Veterans Ascend. We're an online employment matchmaking service. I am a Navy veteran and also a Navy spouse. I served for 9 years on active duty, and since then I've been in various HR roles and business consulting for large and small businesses. I'm honored to be part of the Vet Summit and partner with the Recon Network. And again, thank you for your time today. I look forward to having you here and wish you the best in all of this in the event. For our agenda today, we will talk behind the scenes with HR professionals, networking to your advantage, capitalizing your skills, and interview success. So I've learned over the years, no matter what the role in the organization, from business owner, C-suite, or hiring manager, the search for talent to run and grow a business is critical to long-term success. Cost of hiring, time to fill, turnover, productivity, and retention are real problems that cost employers millions each year. Yet there is an answer to these problems for these employers. We believe it's hire more military talent, and we include our wonderful military spouses in that term, military talent. However, as you know, gaps in your work history, frequent relocations, limiting career progression, and just dealing with the challenges of military life are just a few of the barriers to reaching career success. In fact, underemployment affects more military job seekers than non-military, 16% higher for veterans and 34% higher for military spouses. So it's a real issue, as I'm sure that you've all experienced. So let's talk behind the scenes about HR professionals. The first reality is that HR is not an occupation that businesses easily trust can be translated from military experience. Most CEOs can't define what HR does, and they see it as a cost center, and therefore most companies demand civilian experience in the role for their company. What this does is eliminates people coming out of the military who served in the military being in the HR role. Truly a misperception and a very large miss for our employers. But because of this, most HR professionals have very limited military knowledge. That military knowledge is needed to look at resumes, to understand the nuances of serving in the military, of being a military spouse, and all the things that come with it. So the second reality is that HR is tasked with many responsibilities, and hiring is just a fraction of what they do. They are faced with time constraints, ill-defined positions, and outdated job descriptions, if the job descriptions even exist. They are asked to review all incoming resumes and profiles, source effectively, build candidate relationships, pipeline passive candidates, and in many cases, manage the administrative duties that come along with these responsibilities. So again, just hiring is just a fraction of what they're responsible for doing, in addition to all of the other things. And we've just really kind of talked about the tasks associated with the hiring process, but there are many other engagement, performance management, a lot of other tasks that HR has on their plate. So no surprise then that the sheer volume of resumes can sometimes cause HR to panic and feel that they must evaluate them quickly to keep from falling behind. HR is expected to quickly produce a complete and unbiased assessment of a person's background based on one or a few sheets of paper. It's a tough assignment. When you think about really, you look at a resume or a piece of paper and you're thinking, how do I find what I truly need out of this? It has to jump off the page at them. So it often requires an understanding of a broad range of industries, professions, and even companies. Because, for example, a VP title at one company may equate to a director level position at another. So really reading between the lines of those type of things. It also requires a deep understanding of the jobs that the HR professional is recruiting for. So that could be jobs they're hiring for an operations position or hiring for someone in facilities. They have to know the tasks associated with those jobs. So the fact that HR is a cost center and not a revenue generating center, it therefore runs the risk, they run the risk of losing their jobs over sending the wrong candidate forward. That's a pretty scary position to be in when you think about it. You've got very limited time. And there are papers out there that will tell you that HR spends about 6 to 8 seconds looking at your resume and trying to determine whether or not you'll stay. It's not that they don't want to spend more time on it. It's just, as we've talked about, they have a lot on their plate and they quickly have to decide whether or not they're going to bring you forward as a candidate for their company. They're human beings and they don't want to look incompetent because they don't understand a military resume or if you've been, gaps in your work history. They're forced to make assumptions about a resume, including those gaps and time in each job or career progression. And unfortunately, the negativity out there comes into play. So that's why, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, really need to make your resume stand out, make your skills stand out, and understand, network to get in front of the right person that won't have to make those assumptions about the one piece of paper they have in front of them that describes you. It's not pretty, but they don't do it with malice, only spending a couple of seconds. They really are focused on what they have on their plate and what they need to do quickly to get results. So hopefully it gives you a little bit of insight on behind the scenes with HR professionals. It's a lot more, again, that goes into their job. So if you have any questions, please let us know. Please put that into the chat. We will be monitoring that. I'm also, again, you'll see my contact information at the end. Happy to answer any questions about HR and how you can navigate behind the scenes with HR professionals. All right, so now let's talk about networking. Today, it's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. How do you get people to know you? LinkedIn is really one of the best professional networking sites. There are others out there, but regardless of the platform, you want to do these things. Have a professional picture on your profile. Your professional image, as soon as, and even though it is not necessarily the right thing in some states, and in California, it's actually illegal for them to check your social media profiles. They're going to do it. So you want to make sure that your pictures are presenting the best image that you want them to know about you. So make sure that you have a professional photo or picture on your profile. Keep your profile updated. Make sure that any new skills are out there, any new associations, volunteering, whatever it is that you want to be known for, you need to make sure that it's on your profile and you keep that updated. Make sure your skills are listed. So when recruiters search on keywords, your profile will pop up. So you want to make sure that on your profile, whatever platform you're using skills or keywords, make sure that they are keywords you want to be recognized for and matched on when employers are doing passive searches on keywords. Make meaningful connections. And what I mean by this is look for people who work in the industry that you are interested in. Look for veterans or military spouses in that industry or in the role that you're interested in, because then you want to connect with them to learn more about the positions, learn more about the industry, but you want to make meaningful connections. Don't just connect with people just because they've got 500 connections and that may be something to you. If they've got something of value to you, certainly connect with them. Next, send them a personalized message or connection request. Don't just hit connect, but send a note with some sort of personalization. Look for something on their profile, and it can be as simple as you see that they're a military spouse, that they're a Navy veteran, that they're an Army veteran, that they went to the same college you did, something that, or they live in the same area that you do, something that you want to connect with them on. Put that in the personalized invitation to connect with them. It will show that you've done a little research, that you've done a little insight to why they should connect with you or why you're interested in connecting with them. I typically always, if I'm connecting with someone, I'll look to see if they're a veteran. As a Navy veteran, I always look to see, of course, who's in the Navy. And I always put that in my connection request, go Navy. I always put in there, I thank them for their service in the Army, and thank them for what they're doing today if they happen to be working in the veteran space or military spouse space. So find something that you can relate to that person and put that in a personalized connection request. Then look at your connections and who they are connected to. So when you click on, especially on LinkedIn in particular, when you click on the person that you're connected to, you can view who their connections are and look through that list and ask them for introductions. Find 5 people who can introduce you to someone else. So look through your connections and who they are connected to. It's kind of like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. But go through their connections and have them introduce you to someone that they are connected to. So, and here's the biggest point about networking and being prepared for asking. You're not asking for that person to get you a job. You're asking for their advice, for their input, their guidance, or suggestions on who you should connect with, who can help you. People are 9,000 times more likely to help you, but if you ask them, hey, can you get me the job? Can you get my resume in front of the HR person at Lockheed Martin? They're going to hesitate unless they know you really well, unless they're a really good friend and they know the person at Lockheed Martin really well. As human beings, again, we tend to not want to take a lot of risks when it comes to recommending people, but if you ask for help, everyone is going to accept the request for their advice, for their input, or their guidance, and they're going to want to help you. If you're at a networking event, please be prepared for your 30-second pitch and what you're looking for, what your story is, how someone can help you. Again, not asking them to get you a job at XYZ company. You're asking for their advice. If you know they work in the industry you're looking to get into, ask them how that industry works. How can you break in? Who should you connect with? Again, asking people for their advice. If you are, again, networking in person, which in these days with COVID, we're not doing a lot of in-person events, obviously why the Vet Summit here is virtual. But if you do happen to do an event in person, have a simple business card ready to give, and it just can really have your name, your phone number, your email address, and maybe a line or two on what you're looking for or how that person can help connect you. So hopefully that's helpful around networking. It can be very stressful, but it can be also a lot of fun. And there are a lot of networking events out there. You'll be introduced to one during the Vet Summit. That's called Vets to Industry. So look for those kind of opportunities out there that you'll be able to get into networking very easily. Okay, let's talk about capitalizing on your skills and your strengths. So the first thing you need to do is create your free profile with Veterans Ascend. It is now available to our wonderful military spouses. We do translate civilian occupations into a skills profile. So veteransascend.com, go out and create your free profile. We translate those occupations, including stay-at-home parent, into a skills list, because being a stay-at-home parent is a full-time job, and it has tremendous skills that you're using every day if you happen to be one of those stay-at-home parents. Even if you don't get paid, but you volunteered for a position, it counts as an occupation, so use that. If you volunteered to do accounting for a small business, or you volunteered to do some HR work for a small business or whatever business, nonprofit, write that down or use that as an occupation and have that translated on your Veterans Ascend profile. You can edit, take out skills you don't want to be matched on, and add other skills you do want to be matched on. Then, once your profile is complete, you can use our skills profile as a starting point for your resume, your social media profiles, your portfolio, etc., as well as learning how to tell your story. You want to be able to tell why your skills matter, why your skills add value. But look first at the jobs that you've done and not just the title. What skills did you use to PCS? organizing the move, right? Packing up, getting things scheduled, figuring out where to go. And when you got there, figuring out where everything is supposed to be. Budgeting and finance, administration, operations, logistics. All of these things are skills that you are using on a daily basis as a military spouse. So when you figure out your skills list and your skills profile, now you need to learn how to tell your story. Be proud that you served as a military spouse. It is an honor. Any company who disregards that or doesn't value it is not a company you want to work for. Know what you like to do, and as important, what you don't want to do. Think about your skills in different ways. When you look at a badly written job description and feel like you don't have the skills for the job, if it's something you want to go for, think about your skills and how you can relate it to the job differently. Not just in the way they've put down on a job description, but think about how your skills can add value to their company in that job. So if it's a logistics position, relate your skills that you bring to the table for logistics within their company. Don't just say, oh, in fact, ignore the 5 years of industry experience. It's something that drives me crazy. The reality is that companies started using that term, 5 years of industry experience or 7 years of industry experience, required or preferred. They use it as a filter because they were getting so many resumes of people that didn't really have any experience. So now that they can filter out people by saying 5 years of industry experience required. The problem for military spouses and for veterans is that as you move around, your title may be a little bit different, but your experience is still collective. And they just don't take that into account when they're looking at resumes online. So, but be ready to describe your experience and how collectively it adds up to what this employer needs. And think about your terms in time and think about your skills in terms of the length of time utilizing those skills. So if you've done 3 PCS moves in the last 4 years, you've utilized a lot of logistics, operational skills, budgeting, finance, accounting, all of these type of things. You've used them for a length of time that probably equates to the required length of time they're looking for from experience. And just know that every company truly wants to hire for skills. They are just pressed for time. So it's really your task. It becomes your responsibility to sell your skills and to know what they are and how your skills add value to the company that you're applying for or you have an interview with. So just really know that and really dig into how your skills apply to that company. And that brings us to interviewing success. So first of all, always do your research on a company before you head into an interview. It would really be a shame to get hired at a company only to discover you really don't want to work there, because you then find out that there's something ethical that they stand for that you don't agree with, or their values, their core values as a company don't match your core values. At the very least, research information about the company, about the job, do a Google search for current news on the company. You can also look at Glassdoor for reviews on the company, keeping in mind that you can take some of the reviews with a grain of salt because employees can put reviews out there on the company. But look for things that are important to you, that matter to you. Humanitarian efforts, or do they contribute to military events? Do they have a military resource group? Some other important information to look for: what projects are being carried out by the employer? What's the latest news release? Or what are things that they're proud of that they've put out on their website or into the news or into the community? And do you like those things? Does that company stand for stuff that you believe in, or does what they stand for fit into your values and what you believe in? Next, for in-person interviews, when we get back to being able to do in-person interviews, bring copies of things that you want to leave behind. A portfolio of proof of your skills, achievements, compiling that will also build your confidence and jog your memory, because we all take for granted things that we do on a daily basis. We don't just sit around and make a skills inventory every day to say, oh yes, I was good at this, and let me write that down. So really putting a portfolio together will allow you to really jog your memory and think about those things that you want to make sure that you talk about. Look at how employers treat their employees, how financially stable it is the company. And then again, look what for your values. Bring that out in your interview. Having your portfolio will build your credibility and make it easier to tell your stories. As we talked about before, being able to tell your story and why you add value to this particular organization. If you are in person, don't just sit in the lobby on your phone. Look around. Most companies have things they are proud of in their lobby. It could be newspaper articles, it could be pictures of their locations, it could be books about the company, magazines about the company, it could be their products. I've been in several companies where they manufacture parts for airlines and things, and they have their parts out in the lobby. I went to a glass manufacturer once, and they had the whole process about how they take sand and make it into glass. It was very cool, but it shows your engagement. And also know people are always watching. So you never know if your interviewer is looking from a higher position in the lobby, if they're looking down from a higher floor into the lobby. You never know what they're doing to observe you before they come to get you for your interview. So look around, be engaged, show you're interested. Now, if you're doing a Zoom interview, which most of them are these days, weave something about the company's accomplishments into the conversation, or their history, something about the company that you found interesting or that you can relate to. Perhaps they're headquartered where you grew up, or just something about what they do. Try to weave that into the conversation. Again, it shows, one, that you've done your homework, that you've done your research on the company, and that you're interested in the company and what they've done and what they stand for. Stay positive. And this can be hard, very difficult. I know, when they're questioning your gaps in your work history, questioning career progression. Why are you still only an administrative assistant, not an executive assistant? It's very hard to stay positive. But you need to, a positive conversation is really key to successful job interviews. Employers really don't want to hear a litany of excuses or bad feelings about a negative experience, even when it is legitimate. If you're asked about a low grade, a sudden job change, or a weakness in your background, don't be defensive. Be proud. Again, be proud of your military service as a military spouse. Focus instead on the facts, briefly, to emphasize what you learned from the experience, or again, what you bring to the table because of that experience. Because you stayed in one place and you PCS'd 3 times in 4 years, that brings value to an organization. You're resilient, you're resourceful, you know how to get things done quickly, and sometimes at the last minute without resources to help you. So use that to your advantage. Be ready for those type of things. And again, don't get flustered. Don't let your body language show that you're, upset about the question. Again, stay positive, smile, be happy for the question, because it allows you the opportunity to really tell what experience and skills you bring to the organization. Ask questions. There is no bigger pet peeve for an interviewer as part of the interview when they ask you if you have any questions for them, and you simply reply, "No, I think I'm good." That can be a big strike against you. You have to have questions. There is simply something that you want to know that interviewer did not cover. Having questions shows how interested you really are in the role. You can ask things like, is this a replacement position, or is this an add to staff? There's a difference, right? And if it's an add to staff position, that means the company is growing. If it's a replacement, perhaps you want to know, did the person you're replacing, did they get promoted within the company? So that may be another question that you ask. It also shows, again, that you've done your homework and that you can be taken seriously, that you're not just going to settle for any company or any job. You really want them to see that you are prepared to, with a list of questions that you'd like answered. Again, it could be, do they have a military resource group? Do they do military events? Things like that. So just kind of think about, and it's okay to refer to your questions, list of questions during the interview. So write them down, have a list of them typed out. You can take notes as you're asking those questions. You can certainly ask, it's always helpful or just kind to say, I've got a list of questions, and do you mind if I take notes while you're answering the questions? So as much as you can be in the moment, but you want to write down the answers. That's okay. The reality is you should be interviewing the company as much as they are interviewing you. You want to know if this is the right company for you to spend your time at, whether it be for 6 months, 3 months, a year, 2 years, or the rest of your life, which doesn't really happen these days, but you never know. You could find the right company that makes that happen for you. Lastly, as far as interview success, always, always, always send a follow-up thank you note. If you can send a handwritten note, even better. So if you can find, whether or not you send it, you could send it directly to the company. Now, as much as we're all working from home these days, it may take a little longer for that thank you note, a handwritten note, to get to the person. However, it is just something that hardly happens these days, rarely happens, but people just get so just happy to get a handwritten note. If someone helped you, if someone in your network helped you get to the interview, send them a handwritten note as well. If you can't do a handwritten note, please send them a thank you email. It doesn't have to be lengthy. It can just really super, super short, to the point. Thank them for their time. Thank them for their input. Thank them for answering your questions. Really just quick and easy. You could also then send the handwritten note afterwards. Can't hurt to reinforce your handwritten note there, or your thanks for their time. All right, we've covered a lot. We probably covered it pretty quickly. I'm going to do a recap of our topics today. First, we'll talk about the HR professionals. As a recap there, most HR professionals, again, have very limited military knowledge. So just know that going into the conversations. They're tasked with many responsibilities, and hiring is just a fraction of what they do. HR is a cost center, so the stress related to the decisions that they have to make and add value to the company is very limited. So, or the stress is high, the value that they have to show that they have is limited. So be kind to HR. Kind of think about putting yourself in their shoes. What would you want them to remember you for? So be kind. And just know that they're not really trying to not spend a lot of time with you or not look at your resume for more than 6 to 8 seconds. They've just got a lot on their plate. When it comes to networking, again, make meaningful connections. Find 5 people that they can introduce you to someone. Ask for their advice, input, and guidance, or suggestions on who you should connect with, who can help you. Remember, you're asking for their advice, not for them to just flat out get you a job, but you want to get them to connect you to other people, and everyone is happy to do that. As far as skills, look at the actual jobs you've done, not just the titles. Learn how to tell your story, and look at the titles or the jobs that you want to do. Look at the skills associated with those jobs and know that you have them. You may not have the time in those skills, but you have the skills. So look at the jobs that you're wanting to get and the actual skills that go into those jobs, not just the title. Learn how to tell your story and practice. Practice telling your story. Pick a couple of your skills and learn how to tell your story around those skills. Learn how to answer behavioral questions, interview questions, because the interviewers are going to ask you questions like, tell me about a time when you experienced conflict within the team and you needed to resolve it. They're looking for you to be able to quickly come up with an example. The worst thing that you can do is try to fudge through that and make something up, because your body language will right away let it be known. You have to have an example, and if it's not exactly an example of conflict, we'll use that as the example. If it's not exactly a time when you had a conflict within the team, but perhaps a conflict with the movers when they moved your belongings to the next duty station, perhaps you can relate that to it. So they're really just looking for you to demonstrate the skill of conflict management. So think about that. Take a breath before you answer the question. Again, collect your thoughts so that you're meaningful in your answer and you tell the story in the best possible way. But be ready for those kind of questions and practice answering those kind of questions. Again, every company wants to hire for skills. It's a trend. It's a turning trend. So they're spending a little bit more time looking for them nowadays. But it really is your task to make them look at the skills you bring to the organization. For interview success, again, do your research. Research the company. Understand who that company is. Don't settle for a company that, just because the job has maybe 6 figures they're willing to pay, which would be great. But if it's not a company that you can truly stand behind and believe in, you're not going to be happy in the job. So look for the place where you can be happy, where they'll utilize your skills, where they're proud that you're a military spouse, they embrace that, and it's important to them. Be prepared. Again, have all of your materials, whether it be paper copies of your resume, portfolio, and if you are doing Zoom interviews and you can follow up with your portfolio or send your portfolio ahead of time, make sure you do that. Engage and be in the moment. I will tell you, one of my first jobs out of the Navy, I went to an interview at McDonald's Corporation. And while sitting in the lobby looking around, the receptionist, I noticed, was binding some materials. And she had like 5 binders at her desk in front of her. I simply walked over and asked her if I could help her finish putting those binders together. After she got over the shock of looking at me like, why would you ask to do that? You don't work here. She was very thrilled and very happy that I asked her if I could help. It just made me engaged in what she was doing. It made her feel appreciated for her job. Someone was willing to help her, and it made me interested. And I will tell you that it was the deciding factor in my getting that job at McDonald's Corporation. So do things like that. Think about how you can differentiate yourself. Stay positive in the interviews, even though sometimes it's hard. The interviewers are not perfect. They're nervous. They may not do this all the time. They may not interview all the time. They're making sure that they're asking the right questions without saying anything they're not supposed to ask. So it's nerve-wracking to be the interviewer. So stay positive, keep your body language up, especially on Zoom calls. It's very easy to forget that the camera is on you and the interviewer is watching every little thing that you do. So be mindful of that. Ask your questions, have those questions prepared and ready and thoughtful. So, and you don't want to spend a half hour of questions, but you want to have the most thoughtful and the most important questions that you want to have answered during the interview. And then finally, as a recap, send that thank you note, whether it's via email, whether it's whatever mechanism, LinkedIn, or a handwritten note if you can. Do send that thank you note. It is super, super important. All right. Well, there's been a lot of information today. We've covered that in a pretty quick amount of time. So any questions, happy to answer. Again, happy to connect with you. So if you have any questions about Veterans Ascend, you can email us at talent@veteransascend.com. There is our social media accounts. Please follow us. We do events throughout the year like the Vet Summit here. We also do monthly webinars on different topics, so certainly you'll get informed of those as you follow us on social media. And again, create your free profile at veteransascend.com. As you follow us, we'll have greater impact. The more people that we can show that are supporting us, the more we can do for our military community. There is my information. You can email me at Robyn@veteransascend.com. Happy to answer, again, any questions, anything that I can do. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to connect you. I can be one of the 5 that will help you connect to others along the way. So thank you very much for your time today. Enjoy the rest of the Recon Network Veterans Summit. We really appreciate you being here today. And appreciate all that you do as a military spouse. Thank you so much.